Okay, let me see now. Report. What to do a report on? The surreal social satirical explorations of Louis Bunel. I've always had a soft spot for the batshit insanity of Ken Russell, who famously never directed a movie that didn't include at least one of his kinks and psychological hang-ups splashed all over the screen. I could look at Kafka. Everyone loves a bug guy. Turn into a bug and you've got it made in this game, I reckon. What to do?
Brother Andy, your time is now.
Oh no, I'm not talking about that. Everything's already been said. There's no point digging up yet another obscure piece of arcane trivia to pick over yet again.
Mortal, you defy the gods. As punishment, your dick will fall off and roll under the telly.
Okay, relax, fine, whatever, it's my time. Sooner or later, everyone talks about the Odyssey. Here's the thing. There are some things in life you just have to talk about. You can't forget them, no matter how hard you try. See them once and they become a tiny little part of who you are for the rest of your life. Always there in the back of your mind. Argentinian author Jorge Luis Borges described it in one of his stories, an object called the Zahir, an innocuous item that would immediately cause obsession in whomever possessed it. The Zahir can be anything, a tiger, a marble column, an ordinary coin, but the obsession becomes absolute. That's the thing about obsession. Once it takes root, then all questions of logic and rationality go out the window. You're stuck, my friend. Obsession can cause you to give up all rationality to possess what you seek, and possession rarely brings satisfaction. Homer wrote of the obsession Paris felt towards Helen, and against all reason he snatched her away to his home in Troy of the topless towers and inviolable walls, mighty Troy, distant Troy, unassailable Troy. And in doing so he provoked the wrath of men, of kings, and of the gods themselves. The lovers found no comfort in Troy. They were immediately put upon by the mighty Menelaus of Sparta, the noble and doomed Agamemnon, the invincible Achilles, and of course Odysseus, the clever, the complicated, the compromised. Obsession brought war to Troy, and war brought ruin, and Menelaus brought down those topless towers in the end, and Agamemnon brought the enmity of angered gods home with him to his own ruination, but that's a story for another time. Odysseus, the general, the cunning strategist, was the one who devised the means to seize victory. We all know the story. The horse, the gates, the Trojans, the Greeks. But what came after was perhaps even more remarkable. After 10 years of war, Odysseus wants nothing more than to return home to the island of Ithaca, where his wife Penelope awaits him. That is his obsession, and nothing will stand in his way. However, for the next 10 years, all of the gods and monsters, sorcerers, and catastrophe of the ancient time of legend do their damnedest to try. That story, of the journey we now call the Odyssey, is one of the oldest tales of them all. It is literally one of the oldest stories we still have, and it's a part of all of us, whether we like it or not. Obsession born in a time before all our times. That obsession has kept the story alive and vital, forever present and ready for another retelling, another reworking, another rock opera, another poem cycle, another translation, over and over again. A journey without end that began before us, passes through us, and continues on into a future of endless retellings. There I was, in the early 1980s, a child home from school, and like all of my miserable, benighted kind, I turned on the telly, hoping for a little excitement, a little color, something not wholesome and educational. One day, a new show came out of nowhere. A cartoon series. It seemed to go on forever, week after week, month after month. The bright flashing lights, the insane designs, the absolutely berserk synth music dripping with cocaine and ambition. Anyone who saw it remembers it. You just can't help yourself. Even if you forgot for a while, you just have to hear that opening sting of frantic electric guitar and you're back in front of the telly watching Ulysses 31. The idea had been a stroke of genius. Why not retell one of the oldest stories in Western civilization for a new modern audience? Everyone was into space opera, thanks to a certain blockbusting, effects-driven sci-fi epic you may have heard of, the one with the laser swords. So set the whole thing in the future. The distant future of the 31st century. And since animation isn't cheap, the French-American cartoon juggernaut Dick Audiovisuel decided to join forces with Tokyo Movie Shinsha to do the animation. There was a growing awareness that those Japanese animators knew a thing or two. And besides, they worked cheap. Thus was born Ulysses 31, with a French writing staff, Japanese animators who had no idea what they were making but liked the idea of giant robots in space, and me, watching in England, wondering what on earth I'd stumbled into. The story is, and I'm being generous here, a very loose adaptation of the Odyssey. In French, Odysseus is generally translated as Ulysse, and so our hero is named Ulysses, and he travels aboard a spaceship called the Odyssey. Following a recent visit to his very good friends on the space station of Troy, he sets off home with his crew, who he insists on calling companions at all times, and his son Telemachus. This show was an immediate primer in the pronunciation of ancient Greek names. However, all is not well on the trip home. After encountering a rogue mysterious planet that appears on no charts, Ulysses comes into conflict with the one-eyed, green-skinned disciples of the Cyclops, who happens to be a gigantic robot. The Cyclops is fed a constant diet of kidnapped children, and Telemachus is about to become the next main course before his father is able to intervene and destroy the creature, using the parabolic dish from a crashed satellite to redirect its ocular laser blast back at it. Naturally, the Cyclops blows up, the planet blows up, the disciples are all just, well, they are fucking dead, and it was metal as hell. However, the ancient gods are offended that the Cyclops, their creation, has been harmed. Deciding to punish Ulysses, they drag his ship into the alternate dimension, or galaxy, it's not clear, of Olympus, and frees his companions in suspended animation. Now alone, except for his son and a blue-skinned, cat-eyed telepathic alien girl they picked up along the way, Ulysses must navigate unknown stars until he finds the kingdom of Hades, and only then will he escape back to his home. That all happens in the first 15 minutes. It's literally just the setup to the whole thing. The show was absolutely wild in all the right ways. Each episode would have Ulysses encounter a psychedelic far-future version of some legendary Greek figure, usually ending in tragedy. Usually there is at least one gigantic robot to fight, and fortunately, Ulysses is an expert with his combination laser blaster and lightsaber, along with a sweet rocket belt. He has nothing to help him but noble intentions, excellent strategy, and a small army of robots. Also, his spaceship is shaped like a gigantic eye with a central, unblinking iris. Everything about the design work done for this show looks like the result of a Japanese acid trip taking place while a French philosopher rants about ancient Greece in the next room. What made this show really stick deep into the brains of me and a legion of unprepared kids on a weekday afternoon, however, was the unrelenting bleakness. In the Odyssey, the trials of Odysseus are intense and violent, and he is the only living survivor to make it home. In Ulysses 31, there is a similar sense of utter isolation, broken up by the occasional visit to a cursed asteroid or a totalitarian dictatorship run by shark mutants or whatever. But for a kids' show, there is surprisingly little in the way of real happy endings. The gods are real, their power is real, and their vengeance is absolute. There's no getting around them or bargaining with them. Ulysses does eventually reach the kingdom of Hades, but he only wins out by playing the game of the gods on their terms, by their own rules. I was especially struck by the episode in which he encounters Sisyphus. Yes, Sisyphus. who has been condemned to an eternity of pointless toil because he tried to snatch the secret of immortality from the gods. By the end of the episode, the hubris and short-sightedness of Sisyphus led him to forsake his one opportunity to join Ulysses and leave his curse behind. And that's it. They leave for a new adventure next week. Sisyphus is left behind to an eternity of punishment. There's nothing that can be done. There's no way to help him. The man laments in voiceover that he now knows what each day, each month, each year of his future will be forever. It's brutal. But when you cross the gods cross you back a lot harder. It's a show with robots and explosions and kick-ass synths, yes, but there are also fathers willing to murder their own children, gods who would destroy populations for the slightest insult, creatures who were once men, and men doomed to become less than they were. To put it lightly, it's a lot for a kid to think about. I told myself I wouldn't talk about it because plenty of fine podcasters have done that job for me over the years. If you saw it, then sooner or later you are doomed to talk about it. And now it's my time. The obsession of Odysseus carried him across the sea to Troy and carried him back again to the arms of Penelope through trial and tribulation. The story goes on and keeps going on. The obsession never dies. This year, in 2026, we will see another retelling of the Odyssey on the big screen. Already the braying dogs of the critical anti-wokerati are braying on about how it's a bastardized mockery of a fixed and iconic part of society, as unchanging as the bedrock beneath we have all built on top of for thousands of years. But the Zahir of Jorge Luis Borges takes many forms. The icon of obsession shimmers and shifts like a reflection in water, presenting to each new viewer just what it is that will ensnare them to obsession. The Odyssey is not fixed. It is no more certain than were the fates of the men and women in it, doomed to try and fail and try again against all manner of absurd obstacles. Menelaus said, "The world must be this way," and led the men of Sparta in their black boats to crash against the walls of Troy helplessly for 10 years. Agamemnon said, "My destiny is mine alone to command," and ended up stabbed in a bathtub by his own son as a result. Achilles said, "I shall yield to no one," and discovered that no protection from harm is ever absolute. But Odysseus, he said, "I will twist and turn. I'll change with the currents of the sea and the caprices of fate." Odysseus the Unfixed was the only one who finally found his obsession, and it was his flexible nature that made it possible. There is no one story and no one way to tell it. The story has always been there and will go on having always have been there for a very, very long time. People, perhaps, of distant worlds who have never seen an earthly ocean will one day tell stories of the 1,000 black ships who sailed to seek Helen of Troy. They will get the details wrong, they'll change the words and shift the order, but that doesn't matter either. Odysseus changes with them. That is his gift. It's a story that can be told 1,000 ways, all the different ways that obsession can take root in the human heart, always twisting and turning, but always alluring, time and time again. Just don't hold out too much hope of a happy ending. It's not always that kind of a story. Cinemania Field Report is a production of the Cinemania Society, available wherever you might find quality podcasts. This episode was written and performed by Andy Slack, music by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio, incidental sound courtesy of Epidemic Sound.